What's up? How y'all doing? It's Lugamonger. I'm going to do a review on the Buck 119 Special. This particular model is the, I don't know if it's Coca-Cola or Diamond Wood. A lot of the information that is out there suggests that it's Coca-Cola, but I think that they actually stopped manufacturing the Coca-Cola and they've started manufacturing Diamond Wood. Just because that's what's listed on their website. That's what's actually advertised on their website. So I don't know the particular material, but it's brass, has a brass pommel, brass handguard. There's some things about this knife that there's a lot of reviews online about this knife. There's hundreds of them. One of the reasons is because this is an extremely common knife. This is one of it's sold at Walmart. It's sold at Big Five. It's sold, almost every knife store has got one. You can find them on Amazon. There's hundreds of them out. Different models and different colors and different. But it's all generally the same knife. It's been manufactured for 47 years as of 2015 this year. That's what the website's stating. There's a lot of information out there that there's just no real good viewpoint on this knife. It is a nice knife, okay? But the company has made compromises for that price point, right? They're trying to hit that lower price point. You can tell because of some of the things that have been done with this knife. What I mean by that is this brass, okay? The brass, just the pommel here. Just take a look at the pommel. It's a solid piece of brass pommel, right? And in order to be able to manufacture that at the price cost, the cost, you can see that it doesn't have the best finish on it, right? It's kind of scratched up. It comes like that out of the box. You can see that the pin that they put through there to mount the actual tang. Again, it's very, very visible. It's prominent. It's there. But it is brass. So it's a compromise. It's the same thing with the blade steel. This is a 420HC blade steel. I'm going to get into that in a second, but 420, anything in 420HC is a little bit more expensive than other, 420J or just straight 420, whatever. But it isn't the most expensive steel out there, obviously. So what they have done with this, none of this is guaranteed. This is all just kind of my theory, my opinion. But so in order to have the heat treatment that they do, because Buck's heat treating on their blades does have a very good reputation. I don't know too much as I haven't put this blade through enough to actually get a very good opinion for myself. But it seems to have a very nice reputation. And heat treating is an expensive process. It's time consuming. It requires a lot of different types of gases, different types of materials. So it's not cheap to do, especially to do it right, to do it well. So they're using a lower quality steel with a better heat treatment, which actually, for trying to match a price point, to try to save money, I agree with. Because you can get something with like an S30V blade, like what is, okay, it's in my pocket right now, but the 154 cm, you can get a 154 cm steel that has a crappy heat treatment, and it'll have less wear resistance, and it'll be weaker, more fragile, easier to break than this 420HC with a proper heat treatment. So it's not the steel isn't everything. It's a big contributing factor, but the way they manufacture the steel is almost as important as the steel quality itself. And so with all of that, you can see the finish on here isn't spectacular, right? The lines don't match up perfectly well. You see that fuller? Look at the interior of that fuller. It's ridiculous. It's just milled out like it. It's there's no finishing work really done to that. It came off the CNC machine and then went into a box. And it's the same thing with the spine here. So there's aspects to this where you can see it's not necessarily lesser quality. It's a compromise to get the highest quality possible for the price point, right? And I really respect that. I really like that when companies do things like that, because there's a lot of companies out there where the knife is finished very well. It's got a very good paint job. It's got all this really nice stuff, but it's made out of some crazy pot metal tin. The blade that doesn't hold an edge, it'll break. The $10 knives that you buy at the flea market look cool, right? They look good, but that's where all of that money went. It's only $10, but all of that $10 in the manufacturing went to the looks of that knife. Went to, So there's no actual money going into the quality, and that's not the case with this Buck 119 Special. I don't actually have any experience with other Buck knives. One of the things I really like that they do, as you can see here, there's a little mark, right next to the 19. It's like a little circle, a half circle with a dot underneath it. That signifies that this knife is made in 2013. You can actually go and find out, I know that Nut and Fancy has got a review of this knife. Nut and Fancy's knife was manufactured in 2008. It's kind of cool. You can look at all the videos online of the people's knives, and what the date is of the manufacturers, because it's right there. It's kind of cool. This particular model was manufactured in 2013, which is interesting because this is made in 2013. I purchased it 2015, so it sat around for 2 years. Who knows where that was? It was probably just in a warehouse somewhere waiting to get shipped out. But the reason that I purchased this knife is actually an interesting story. I carry a fixed blade pretty much every day, day to day, and I can't remember for the life of me who it was. I think it was probably a client, somebody. I can't remember, don't really remember, but they had said a Buck knife. Oh, you got a Buck knife, right? And it wasn't. It was Benchmade Bushcrafter, and that made me cringe. I was like, ugh, this isn't a Buck knife. Buck is a company. It's a manufacturer. It's not a specific type of knife. It's not like Bowie. And so that bothered me, and I went out the next day and bought a Buck knife, because this is, when people say Buck knife, this is the knife that they're referring to. This is the Buck knife. This is a Buck knife. So that name has some negative connotations. It has some positive connotations. It just has a reputation. It has a Buck knife. This is a Buck knife. I just think that's really cool. This is one of the things that's like a K-bar USMC. Every knife guy, every knife collector should have one. Regardless if you're going to use it. I'm not going to carry this. It's not worth a whole lot of money. It's not very grandiose, but I think it's beautiful. I'm going to make a stand and put it either on my wall, on a desk. Just have it sitting there, because it's a great looking knife. It is a very beautiful knife. It is a very functional knife. It's not the most ergonomic thing out there, but I didn't even give you the specs on this. I'll do that. The blade length is 6 inches. The weight is 7.5 ounces for the actual knife advertised. The overall length is 10.5 inches. The blade thickness is 1.96 inches, so it's just right over 3/16 of an inch. The handle thickness tapers from 0.9 inches right here at the thickest point down to 0.65 inches right here at the base of the pommel. The sheath is leather, obviously beautifully done. It's not the most easy to use. It's not the quickest in and out, but it's good looking. I think it's just beautiful. And for a knife that I don't intend to carry, I can't really complain too much about the way that the sheath works. It's built great, made in Mexico. The MSRP on the standard model with the Velox, black Velox, and steel guard and pommel is $93. The MSRP on this particular model is $134. Obviously, you're not going to pay that, but one thing I'd just like to say on here, I was curious about that 420 HC steel, and so I looked it up, right? The carbon content, on advertised carbon content for a 420 HC steel is 4.46% carbon and a 13% chromium. It's like 0.3% vanadium. I think it's 0.4% manganese, I want to say. But that's kind of regardless. I'm just running on chromium and carbon content. It's a 0.46% carbon and 13% chromium. A 420, straight 420, okay, is 1.5% carbon, or 0.15% carbon, okay, 0.15% carbon at a 12 to 14% chromium rating, right? So this is a completely different steel. I mean, it's got almost 4 times the amount of carbon content. It actually has a little bit less rating as far as chromium content, but then, I mean, it's got a higher manganese. No, it's actually got a lower manganese content, but it's got a silicon content. It's got, you know what I mean? So there is a respectable difference between this and a general 420 steel. Again, like I said, I'm not really going to use this, so I'm not really going to have too much testimony to the actual durability of the blade, but those are just my impressions on it. I think it's just absolutely beautiful knife. Fantastic execution. Y'all have a good one.